clear to go for a hero like the Spectre or the Juggernaut. Heroes that want to farm a ton, and they're probably going to get a good start with these big team fight skills that they have. So it means that the Silencer is going to have to be 100% on his game here. I'm really interested to see if it's going to be, it probably will be a core Silencer here. So we know that he's going to have some farm. The problem is if he gets shut down, that means that Jokers are going to have a pretty easy way into the mid to late game for their carry. So basically the key for East Chapel so very early in the draft is that this silencer cannot be shut down because he's a really integral part of their lineup here.
I definitely see that coming out. I do see a silencer possibly coming in mid, off lane Void, but do you think that maybe they roll with Venomancer in a lane, Sand King in a jungle position? So like maybe move the Venomancer off lane, Magnus mid, Sand King in the jungle role, and then you can have the ability to have Sand King come into the mid lane, burrow strike, and help get the kills on Silencer that Magnus is going to need to shut down Silencer.
They could run it like that, but I think that even without the Sand King being in a support role, like a Ricky and a Venomancer, it would be so easy for them to kill a Silencer in that case if they just have those two heroes coming in, because the Ricky's going to be a presence, or should be a presence, on the mid lane anyway.
Yeah.
So heroes like a Silencer, actually, I would like to see. I think it might be better even for East Chapel to run a core Kunk and a support silencer, just because it's going to be really difficult for that mid hero to survive with the pressure Ricky's going to be providing here.
Yeah, especially just the Ricky has the ability to just move all over the map, and you always have the threat of being ganked if you're the side of East Chapel Hill with that Ricky on the other side. Do you think, like you were saying, Kunkka and Venge, they might be those roaming supports? You think they're going to stick more towards mid and then maybe just help out the silencer that way?
Um, I don't really think that should happen. Vengeful Spirit and Kunkka, they're not really your strongest dual lane mids, so I think that any time that they spend on the mid lane trying to protect whoever they end up sending there, whether it be the Medusa or the Silencer, I think it's just going to be wasted. They don't really get a whole lot from it. Maybe the Kunkka can spend more time there, but I'm actually a little bit worried if they do end up if they do end up having a lot of pressure on their mid lane and they can't really do as much about it. So I would definitely look for the Kunkka to be the one to rotate over and the Venge just get the pulls off and do everything she can in the safe lane. But I think most of this matchup is really going to depend on the mid lane, how much pressure is put on the heroes there and if there are any kills.
Yeah, and we do see that Juggernaut come out with the possibility of getting the Empower from Magnus, so it's an interesting lineup for the side of Jokers as well as for East Chapel Hill. Who do you think has the better lineup this early, of course?
Um, I'm definitely looking for Jokers to have the advantage here. I just think that their AoE team fight is going to be a little bit much for East Chapel. And I mean, there's a pickup of a Medusa here. I think that Jokers are going to be putting enough pressure onto her that it's difficult for her to find farm. And even when she does have it, I think it's an easy Diffusal Manta pickup for Juggernaut just to really shut her down.
Yeah. So lane, safe lane, Juggernaut, off lane, Sand King, as well as what mid Magnus support Venomancer, Ricky for the side of Jokers,
Yep, that should be it.
and then of course off lane Void, safe lane Dusa, and what looks like to be a mid Silencer with the supports of Kunkka and Venge. So if that seems to be the way it goes, laning phase, it does seem to me at least to favor Jokers early on.
Um, yeah, it should. I would definitely think that they have an advantage, especially if they can put adequate pressure on the mid silencer. Um, that'll force the Kunkka to rotate around and also kind of babysit him a little bit more. He does have like a lot of things that can interrupt ganks on the mid lane, and I think a Medusa against Sand King matchup is completely fine for her. She can stay away from the creep wave, might get pushed under tower a little bit, but she will have enough damage at some point just to be able to work with that. So I think they will be tested a little bit lasting under tower, which is important here, but I don't think there's really any danger of a kill.
All right, and the late game, if that Medusa gets farm, it could definitely be trouble for Jokers, but I feel like with the Juggernaut, like you were saying, diffusal blade pickup, especially if the RPs are on point, even a late game Medusa might not be enough for East Chapel to really take the lead at any point in this game over Jokers, unless they really put a lot of pressure in early.
I think there will be a lot of pressure early. I expect the support duo from Jokers to be roaming around the map a lot. Like, I think Venomancer as a solo support at top doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I would definitely like to see him get a couple of levels maybe, but then just move around the map because the only thing he's going to be doing in top is pushing. That's the most he can really help them out with. He doesn't do so much against a Void.
Yeah, and Void with the easy escape. At least easy-ish, unless, you know, it's on cooldown that first level 24 seconds, so not really much gank potential up top unless you really do catch him out. So I think the lanes do seem a bit even. We do see Torrent come out on 2. Sand King gonna get very low magic missile hits up on the Sand King, and they already found themselves first blood, so a very active safe lane for the side of East Chapel. And a first kill going their way. That's already the advantage they really want in this early game.
Yeah, Sand King was just a little bit overestimating his damage there. Went with the Burrow Strike and it was pretty good, but the Torrent is so strong in this situation, and the control from Etchis was enough. They take down the Sand King, and they give an early advantage over to their lane.
Yeah, and that's
With
it.
Medusa getting the gold for it, so that's also a very important part.
Yeah, first blood for Medusa. Now you got to really sit back, and you can't really show yourselves too much. There's a lot of lockdown down here with the Magic Missile and Torrent combined. It's definitely going to be a tough lane for Sand King and the Ricky if Ricky stands by.
I'm not really sure why Jokers are going with this dual lane setup. Like, they maybe put some pressure on the Medusa, but with the supports there, the Ricky does have to be very careful in the early parts of the game. And quite honestly, the Mag is not having a good time mid at all.
Yeah, so X marks the spot. Torrent comes forward with the Snake, and a couple more shots should do it. Burrow Strike not really too far away, but extended enough where Fuzzy Bunny, he's now way out under tower. But with the Sand King so low, he can't really come back in, and I don't know.
He's got to eat a tree.
Yeah, I don't know what that smoke was. He just kind of...
Wrong button.
Yeah, probably. But the Burrow Strike will come in to finish him off, and Ricky actually gets the kill. Still nothing going on for the side of East Chapel. I thought they would at least get a return kill on that. You knew the Kunkka was dead to rights once he was under tower that far down. Thought maybe the Medusa would come in with a Mystic Snake, but they just let their Kunkka fall, and now it's 1-1. East Chapel and Jokers are tied up.
It's not really a good kill to be giving over to this bottom lane. I think if they committed a little bit more for it, like they know that Kunkka's pretty tanky, he could even take a few of those tower shots, which he did there. If he had the rest of the team following him in, they definitely would have gotten the kill on the Sand King and really didn't have to worry about getting killed themselves too much.
Yeah, I definitely think they could have come in a little bit more aggressively with that, but they stayed back. Maybe it was the lack of mana on the Medusa that held them back. They thought they didn't have the Mystic Snake. Maybe they thought they didn't have enough. But they let their Kunkka go in a bit too deep, and down he goes. It's even at 1, so the lane kind of evens itself out. Do you see maybe the Sand King? I don't think he's going to pick up an Iron Town. I think he sticks in this lane and kind of tries to keep himself, you know, farming away without the Iron Town and having to back off into that camp over by the secret shop at all.
Well, I mean, this lane is pretty scary.
Actually go in on him. They get the X and the Torrent, and that'll be another kill on Sand King, and maybe he does go for that Iron Town. This early on, he's died twice.
That was also him being a little bit too aggressive. He went in for the Burrow Strike on the Medusa, which basically meant that his escape mechanism from this lane wasn't there anymore, meaning that he was incredibly susceptible to getting ganked there by the big 2-stun duo. So he definitely needs to save that a little bit more.
Yeah, he's got to be a little bit more held back on it. He can't just use it to get some damage out. Ooh, Silencer almost gets a kill. Fairy Fire eaten. Gigan just a bit short on the damage to get that Magnus down for the first time. This lane, we take a look. It's Silencer 24 and 8. The Magnus has sat back quite a bit at 11 and 1. So we do see the Silencer leading the lane, and Venge does go down low, and without that, we do see the Silencers kind of leading. Are you surprised it's gone that way, or is that just because we haven't seen Ricky really make a rotation mid at all?
No, it's definitely because of the support pressure. I mean, basically melee against range, and all Magnus has is a shockwave to try to get the lane back in his favor. Like that's not nearly enough against the Silencer. He doesn't even have to take aggro from the lane when he tries to harass the mag. So it's just so easy for Silencer to do well here. And without any help from the supports, it's a big problem for the Magnus.
Now he's coming up top. Cloud might be in a little bit of trouble. He does have Global Silence. Don't think it's really going to be... Never mind. He does pop it, and now they look to go in on Cloud. He's first hitting RC. Not going to bring down that Juggernaut, but it looks as though Cloud has spoken his last words, and he'll fall to Gigan.
Yeah, when he was going through the side shop there, he should have just picked up the TP and possibly gotten a TP out of there, because you're basically running into a silencer with double damage, and he even used the silence for it. He's just doing so much damage, and maybe the Juggernaut's here in a little bit in trouble as well.
He should be okay. No level 6 for Rocket F20, and he doesn't have that Chronosphere just yet, so even if Gigan wanted to hit from the outside in, no Chronosphere, the Juggernaut should be safe. And now actually Magnus getting very low. See if Gigan dives. Nah, a bit too far. He does have boots on the Magnus, so he's out of range. But coming around the bend is Fuzzy Bunny and Jason. They do grab the torrent before the regen's picked up. Now Magic Missile with the skewer out, but X marks the spot, does land. He'll try to deny himself to Roche. And ooh, he does get the deny, but it's still -2. I didn't think he was going to get that off in time.
You know, it was, if the Venge hadn't hit him there, I think that he just dies to the silence instead of Roshan killing him. But, you know, sometimes you get a bit impatient, that's fine. He dies anyway, and you get more intelligence for your silencer. So this whole game is just Joker's getting stupider as the silencer gets more intelligence.
Yeah, and the more intelligence this silencer steals, the better this game's going to go for them. And, of course, that's a little bit of a correlation that's obvious, but... You know, they don't want to be giving up too much to the Silencer. We thought this late game should be in the hands of Jokers, but you steal too much intelligence. Silencer does hit pretty hard the later this game goes.
Yeah, he does. So at that point, you need to be looking at, well, if I'm playing against a Silencer and he's doing a lot of damage, how do I get onto him? Because he's kind of glass cannon. He can't really stand and do damage all the time. So if you can put pressure onto him, then you got a better chance of just shutting him down and making all that farm and intelligence that he's getting in the early game kind of mean less.
Trying to go in on this Magnus. Skewer forward, and now the Silencer's under tower, but silenced up is this Magnus. Going to use Global Silence, but I still don't think he's winning this fight. Maybe that was for the Medusa down low to pick off the Sand King. Fairy Fire eating Ricky, trying to find himself a kill. Will finally bring the Silencer to his demise, but now coming in with the RP is Magnus. But it's not really that beneficial. They do lock up the Kunkka and the Chronosphere and finish off the Magnus. There's Venge coming around from the edge, and even with the two-man RP, wasn't enough to really save their Magnus and save this fight. So Medusa gets the Sand King down low. They grab the Magnus mid. That's a bit of gold going the way of East Chapel.
Trying to figure out why the Venomancer's at this lane. He really just needs to get enough experience for his ultimate, and there's only so much that a Venomancer can use there. I think the only consolation for Jokers is they did end up bringing the Silencer down, and they managed to bait out the Chronosphere for it. It wasn't necessarily needed there, so it means that they don't have to worry about it for at least 90 more seconds.
Yeah, Chronosphere is a big part of East Chapel's game. I'm thinking maybe this Silencer goes for a Dragonlance, try and hit from the outside in on that Chronosphere, get the range, so he can hit with the Glaives of Wisdom onto the side of Jokers. But I don't know, maybe Dragonlance isn't the right move. He's going for treads right now, and coming around the bend on this mid lane, Ricky and Magnus got to watch out. Last word used on Magnus, but there's the smoke screen. That's really the bane of Silencer's existence, because he can't really do too much under that smoke screen. And there's the shockwave and another hit from Ricky. Down goes Silencer again. So getting a bit too aggressive.
Yeah, that's just him being a Silencer, not very tanky. He does do some damage, but if he doesn't have a whole lot of help or his support isn't able to do as much, you saw Avenge there, but she doesn't have swap or anything to help out the Silencer, it's very difficult to keep him alive, especially when you don't have someone like an Oracle or a Dazzle. Like, Silencer needs to be a lot more careful with his positioning there, and he's just being a bit too aggressive right now, not really respecting the fact that Joker's lineup is excessively good early game.
I think they're just trying to keep the eye off Medusa down low, get as much farm as she can. She's already got that Perseverance working pretty well and trying to get that Epicenter off, it looked like, but now Mystic Snake does not bounce left, and they don't get the kill on the Sand King. If he had channeled it, it would have been on cooldown, but I guess he didn't go for it. It looks like he might have started it, but I was wrong.
Yeah. I mean, he was a little bit aggressive there, but at least he got some damage. But at this point, they're both forced away from the bottom lane, which opens it up for the Medusa to try to push the tower in. And, I mean, they're getting some good damage onto it.
Yeah, it's making a lot of space for this Medusa. Already 60 and 10. 2 behind the Juggernaut, but with 2 kills under the Medusa's belt. I mean, the net worth has got to be there. Up 500 net worth over the Juggernaut. And actually, Global Silence is used. And up top, Faceless Void's going to find a kill on the Juggernaut. Still got to run away from this Magnus and avoiding the Shockwave. Oh, God, I can't find myself a kill on this map. Avenge finds himself a kill on the Venomancer. Thought there might be a kill on the Void. We look up top. We miss a kill down low. And it's the camera work that needs work over everything combined.
I'm sure we could find some other things to work on if you really want to.
It's a growing experience.
As always. And for the teams as well. I mean, we're all trying to learn some Dota, all trying to get better. So definitely can have a lot of fun with it, and I hope the teams are having a lot of fun this game. I think that the Medusa will be a problem fairly soon for Jokers, because if you take a look at the Juggernaut, he's about 1,200 net worth behind her at this point. She's had 2 kills under her belt, and she hasn't died at all. She's being involved as well. Right now, just doing very well getting up those first couple of items, so the Juggernaut needs to make sure that he's able to get his items in a timely manner. Otherwise, this Medusa is really going to have no answer. She's going to be very tanky, very difficult to get down. This Juggernaut's really the main one that can deal with her.
And Juggernaut's he's looking for that Battle Fury with the Perseverance. I don't think that's going to be a Lincoln. So Battle Fury into Diffusal Blade. That's what we think is going to go for this Juggernaut to try and bring down the Medusa.
I personally love to see him get a bit more aggressive, to be quite honest. The Battle Fury will help him farm a bit, but I think his build needs to be a little bit more early focused, because when we do get into the late game, the Void is going to be hard to kill, Kunkka is going to be doing a ton of damage, and this Medusa is just going to be... They're going to be lucky if they can bring her down.
Yeah, it's going to be rough once this game gets a little bit later, and he's going to use that Healing Word last. We're going to do a bit of damage, but he'll just scurry off. He might turn it around. He does not have enough mana for Omni Slash, so I'm not too sure he wants to go in on this Silencer.
He has a mango.
With the Venge coming around, there's the Global Silence. Torrent gonna miss. Blade Fury used by RC. They've got a couple of these heroes on the side of East Chapel lined up. Nobody dead just yet on Joker. There's the Chronosphere on too. They've grabbed the Venomancer as well as the Juggernaut, and they will bring both of them down. Now this Magnus, he's looking for the good RP, can't find it. And 4 is still alive for the side of East Chapel. Ooh, I think Ricky might find himself a kill on this Venge. Not too careful. Now under a Sentry Ward, just does TP out. Thought maybe the Ricky would go in, just grab a kill and give up his life for it.
And now you can see Joker's kind of paying a little bit for the good start that they allowed the Silencer to have. The Magnus is a little bit further behind and hasn't gotten to his Blink Dagger yet. If he does have his Blink Dagger there, even after the Juggernaut dies, he's going to get a good RP off and would have been a presence in that last fight. But he's just not quite there yet. It's a good thing that he didn't die, but not having a Blink Dagger in that situation really hurt him.
Diffusal Blade being built up for Ricky. Tranquil's out on this Sand King Magnus. He's saving up for that Blink Dagger, trying to get those Blink RPs. And once he gets that, you think that's a power spike that the side of Jokers needs. They get those Blink RPs and work around it with the Omni Slash too. It's a combination that could work out for him.
I mean, it'll definitely turn the tables a little bit. The question is it going to do enough against the Radiant side? They're very tanky. If the Void's able to get his Time Walk off, it's doing basically no damage to him. It's really all about who gets caught out, and if Silence is going to be able to get a good ultimate off, because this Juggernaut really needs a few items before he starts to be really a factor in this game. I'm also not sure if I agree with him going with the Battle Fury, especially when he has a Magnus on his side. He's already going to have the cleave. He can get through the jungle fast if he has it on him, and he's going to have it in the fight. It's just a ton of damage for him. So I definitely think that going with a different item might have worked a little bit better for him.
So Smokescreen, Venomous Gale comes out on Gigan. Torrent's going to stop the Riki for now. There's the global silence with the boat coming through, and Riki's going to be the first to fall. Venomancer in trouble, and it gets turned right upside down as Riki thought he had a good smoke screen out on the silencer to grab himself a kill, but instead the two of them fall.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a case of too soon for Jokers. They didn't have most of their team there. They had a couple of Invis guys, but Venomancer's ult wasn't up for another 20 seconds when they went into that. So it was a little bit of a case of not having the damage they needed in that situation. And they would have loved to get the silencer down, but it's just not really in the cards for Jokers at all.
This Magnus is in trouble. X marks the spot as well as the magic missile. Torrent hits too. He'll skewer himself out. That pushes them back, and they can start to work on this tier 2 bottom. It's Jokers are getting pushed pretty far back, all things considered. You know, this early game is favoring right now East Chapel. We take a look at this Void. He's got himself the Vlads, and Silencer did go Midas heading towards... That's got to be a 4-staff. Probably go for what, a Hurricane Pike, or is that not a full built Hurricane Pike going the way of Silencer, you think?
Oh, it should be. I mean, especially with how he's building, but going with the 4-staff is completely fine on Silencer. He benefits a lot from the positioning that it uses, and with the control that the rest of his team has, I think it's completely fine for him to be going for the 4-staff before Dragon Dance, just because it gives him some extra damage with the Staff of Wizardry, as well as the positioning tool that it'll have for him.
So now we see that the Medusa's got Lincoln Sphere. Is this the time to be aggressive for East Chapel? You know, they've got that Lincoln's ready on Medusa, or do they try to sit back a little bit more, find the finish to the rest of their team's next items, like the 4-staff on Gigan, and then become aggressive? Or with this Lincoln Sphere, do you find them just playing the offensive strategy on Jokers and continuing to try and take them down and open up a big net worth lead?
To be quite honest, I don't think that the pressure is on the Radiant side at all. I think they are completely fine with just sitting back, maybe getting some farm.
Yeah, Global Science comes out. X marks the spot with the Torrent. Burrow Strike, and that was... It looked like Epicenter again, but they do use the Dust. They get it out on this Sand King, but he does have Blink Dagger. He'll be able to... Thought he would get out, but he tries to Burrow Strike. X marks the spot with the Torrent. Magic Missile, and Kunkka actually picks up a kill. I wasn't too sure that he's kind of just stopped moving. Maybe a little bit of lag on the side of Jokers.
Maybe he thought that he was an X or something before he went for the Burrow Strike. That's really the only thing I can think of there. I mean, once he used that, he's dead. There's basically no way for him to be alive after he's already used his Burrow Strike and he doesn't have his Blink Dagger up either. I think that... I mean, maybe if lag was the problem, I could see his frustration, but you gotta save those Burrow Strikes.
Yeah, you gotta be able to get out, especially with X marks the spot, and especially with Swap. We haven't really seen that used just yet, and with maybe a level 2 Swap coming within the next 5 minutes, even with a Burrow Strike out, the Swap and X could be there to bring him right back in. It's gonna be tough escapes for the side of Jokers.
Back to the point before, I don't think that Radiant should really want to be fighting too much right now. Maybe they can take a couple of fights or two, but quite honestly, they're completely fine with just playing the farm game right now. They have... Like, they'd be playing into 2 Blink Daggers from Jokers, both picked up by the Magnus and Sand King. So there's a lot of team fight that they just got right now. So even though CHS are pretty far ahead, it's going to be... I think the next fights could go Joker's way a little bit.
We're looking to grab this Void, but do they really even have enough to bring down the Void? They've got 4 down here, but a Chronosphere defensively, although not the way you really want to use it. Chronosphere, Time Walk, or Chronosphere just TP out could just be his escape, and then maybe you've used everything. So I don't really know if Jokers can grab themselves a kill on this Void. It's pretty tricky to bring down, even with 4 coming in on the side of Jokers.
And I mean, he has the Chronosphere, and there's also a lot of different ways for ECHS HS. That's a lot of H's. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go back to calling them H's. Um, I think that they have a lot of time that they can use to respond to these sorts of things. They have both the Chronosphere as well as like the global silence from the silencer. So they have a lot of different ways to get to the fight in case the void is going to end up getting low. So maybe they would be using a lot to get into the fight, but you hope that even with the Chronosphere, the void is able to do some kind of damage to a couple of heroes, making it difficult for them to fight further.
Blink Skewer is going to miss as well as the Burrow Strike. There's the Global Silence. X out on RC. Now torrented up. Mystic Snake going to come forward with the boat. That's going to land on Cloud. The Ricky tries to get out with his ulti. Ulti used by Venomancer before he dies. But now there's the X as well as the Torrent. And 3 fall on the side of Jokers. And a nice cleanup from the side of East Chapel, as they didn't even use the Chronosphere on it. And they didn't use Stone Gaze either.
Yeah, this is a Radiant side that's extremely scary. This Medusa just had such an easy early game and got ahead of the Juggernaut, who went for a build that I don't necessarily think he needed. I think he needed something that worked a lot earlier against the Medusa, and they just don't have that right now. And she's just gonna plink away at these towers, even without a drop. Medusa's very scary in this game, and you can see it working well here.
I think that, they didn't really take advantage of the empowered Juggernaut combo the way they could have. The farm could have been there without the Battle Fury getting picked up by the Juggernaut, and now they're in trouble because he's now gotten the Battle Fury and still has to pick up a Diffusal Blade to have any shot at really bringing down this Medusa.
Or even a Manta Style would be good on him.
Yeah.
Like, when you get the Battle Fury, you're kind of hoping that your map is available for you to farm, that you have some kind of space to be able to do that. But right now, the Jug's just finding that very difficult. Like, he's not even in his jungle right now. He's trying to fight because he's really forced into it by the Radiant push, and he's just got completely shut down in that last fight.
Yeah, once they got the X on him as well as the Torrent, he was pretty solidly locked up. There's the X with the Chronosphere. Only comes out on 2, but Juggernaut's already dead. Venomancer going to be the next to fall. And now Diffusal Blade does come out, but the Blink Dagger used by uninstall the Sand King, and he'll find an escape, but Ricky's going to be the next one to fall. 3 again go down for Jokers.
Yeah, it really was a good Chronosphere in the last fight. Just completely separated Jokers so that it was hard for them to be able to help out each other during the Chrono. They're just caught on both sides of it, and like at that point without a Magnus, there's really not so much that they can do.
Epicenter not exactly on target. Stone Gaze used by Fisher Swamp. They bring down the Sand King, swap back the Magnus. They'll get another 2. Now 4 dead on Jokers with Ricky coming back up in just a moment. It's another team fight that just doesn't go their way.
Yeah, and I think this really just stems from the laning decisions that they had. The Ricky just hanging out with the Sand King, effective his levels in the early game, and didn't really put as much pressure on the mid silencer as I thought there was going to be at the beginning of the game. I think that was one of the main weaknesses of the Radiant lineup, and it really wasn't taking advantage of it all, and that leads to the Dire just not having as much coming out of that waiting phase, and a great start from ECHS.
Yeah, they grabbed the win. Maybe Jokers, they kind of, check what their strategy is for the next game. It looked as though on paper they had the right idea, but, they just didn't, optimize it and get it out and forward. They had the Ricky stay, like you said, with the Sand King, and they just couldn't get their items, couldn't get their power spike they needed to overcome the power that East Chapel Hill showed. And East Chapel Hill, they take game 1. That's 1-0. One more game coming up in this best of 2, and we'll be right back on Twitter. I'm BCOP92, BKOP92, and on Twitch, I'm twitch.tv/gamingforgelt. That's twitch.tv/GAMING, the number 4GELT. Where can they find you, Pythion?
You can find me on Twitter at PythionLegume, as well as on twitch.tv/PythionLegume, and I'm not going to spell it out for you because you're in school. You kids should be learning how to do that.
All right, we'll be back in just a moment.